So, we are back to discuss a review of the Ipswich game and also the look ahead to Sunday's FA Cup fixture versus Fulham. And perhaps what will be the end of the FA Cup run. The journey, I should speak like the Arsenal PR admins with this. The long the long-winded and very emotional, tumultuous journey filled with ups and downs. It touches the heart. But in our case, it's in every other club's language. What it means is, well, you're out of the FA Cup because you were too shit to get through to the next round. This is basically what it is, and should kind of be. Well, it is universal language for football. If in a cup competition you get knocked out, it's probably because you were a little bit more shit than the other team, or you weren't as lucky, or you were more unlucky, and that's kind of it, really. I mean, all three things kind of have the truth at the same time, but ultimately, for United's case, we've got our work cut out for us. No Patrick Dorgu. What happens to the left-hand side of our team? Because against Ipswich, he was pretty decent. He was fairly decent, one of the best outfield players. I know people will say, "Oh, it's his fault for the first goal. It was his fault for the..." I've seen a Twitter account. I'm genuinely serious when I say this. A Twitter account that seriously says that we blame Onana too much, and that he's actually a fantastically good goalkeeper. He actually said that. He said that it was Dorgu's fault for the first goal, and it was Maguire and De Ligt's fault for the second. Unbelievable stuff, Jeff. Unbelievable stuff. When both times we can very plausibly say that Bayern would have avoided and prevented both goals. See, the first goal, and this goes into the Ipswich review. The first goal we conceded against Ipswich was I would say it's a miscommunication, but I mean you could probably say that it is just solely it was initialized by miscommunication. The goalkeeper, in that sense, is meant to call out to his player, leave it, or call goalies, or goalkeepers, or keepers, whatever. Just a key name, a key word that means that the defender goes, "Oh, I'll leave it then. I won't touch it. I'll shepherd the ball back to you," because the Ipswich players got to go through Dorgu to get to the ball, and Onana's closing in. He doesn't really say that though, and Patrick Dorgu's surprised to see Onana there. So evidently, there's no call for the ball whatsoever. There's got to be no communication. No one's talking there, right? Dorgu could have prevented it by playing a bit more heads up rather than sort of very focused, heads down, just only looking at the ball. I think if he just plays one sort of glance up at the goalkeeper, he can see that he's coming towards the ball. And even if he does opt to play the pass, he plays it, very straightforwards, at a slower pace, straight to the goalkeeper. But none of that happened. So some people will say, "Oh, it's all Dorgu's fault." We know that's not the case. We very much know that is not the case. The second goal, I'm pretty sure there's barely any goalkeepers in the world that would have sort of let that roll in. The shots come from quite a mile away, and it looks like the striker's going to get a touch, but Onana's sort of like, I'm going to die for this guy, right? Who's going to take the shot, who's going to get a touch in it, rather than covering the initial trajectory of the ball. Because the point is that you don't play to anticipate the shot coming from the attacking player. You anticipate the initial ball because it's got a bit of a spin on it, and it's going away from the striker. So you should be able to gauge, hey, if this striker's going to get a touch on the ball, he's going to really struggle to reach for it. He's going to have to really, really reach for it. And you know what? He didn't actually go to touch it. He left it. He actually left it. He's just like, you know what? It's Andre Onana. I don't need to touch it. So then Onana sort of gets made to look like a right doofus in goal. And you can't really say anything other than that. It's as simple as that, you know. Second goal was absolutely ridiculous. Should never have been conceded. And a proper goalkeeper wouldn't be diving for ifs, buts, and maybes. He'd be diving for a certainty. That is that ball that is actually travelling at a slower pace. Very easy for a goalkeeper to get down for. It's a very routine pick the ball up and then restart your attack. But he didn't do any of that. And I'm more likely to believe that's the perception of it because we've watched him. I mean, what was it? Um, yeah, it's James Ward-Prowse's free kick when he was playing for Forest. He was surprised. James Ward-Prowse was surprised. I think when he had taken the free, well, no, it was Morgan Gibbs-White. It was against Nottingham Forest. Morgan Gibbs-White. He took the free kick and he was like, I was surprised that the goalkeeper just didn't save it because I had it in my mind that that was a crap effort. The second that he sort of made contact with the ball, and he was like, what? How is he let that in? Genuinely, it's Onana has worked harder to concede his goals than he has to saving them. There's no world in where that's even remotely normal or close to being normal for a goalkeeper to make harder work of conceding a goal than he actually does saving it. It doesn't really make any sense to me. So that's a real bad. The red card, I think, from Patrick Dorgu is an unfortunate. There's an unfortunate thing on his case. I think he was quite desperate. He was aggressive into the tackle. I think it's more of a curbing of how he goes into a challenge. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, you should really not go diving into any challenges or defend with that level of intensity. Just if you go into a challenge, don't show your studs. Just go in essentially sliding with the knees to then swipe the foot into the ball to make the challenge rather than putting your studs in and risk having a Casemiro versus Crystal Palace 2.0 happen to you, or Southampton's, one of the two. And no, it was Southampton that happened. But what I think with that challenge, it's just the circumstance. The pitch is relatively slippery, so if you're going to the ground, you're going to carry a bit more momentum going into a challenge. So of course it's going to look a bit harder and a little bit worse when it happens in real time. But for me, that I think it's just going to be a case of lesson learned from Patrick. It's going to be a lesson learned that he's not going to sort of go into a tackle with the studs first. He's going to go in with slightly different, hopefully, a slightly different technique to win the ball if he is to opt to go for ground. Outside of that, I think it's a shame because he was a very good performer. And crisis, you could say that he now misses 3 matches, I believe, as it's a straight red card. So, cynical challenge, straight red for the challenge, accumulates 3 matches, means he misses Fulham. So there's no left-hand side player again against Fulham this weekend. So there's that to be concerned about. Still no sign of Toby Collier or Kobe Mainu. Luke Shaw's not going to be back. Mason Mount won't be back. Martinez, as we know, is out for the whole season, into probably next year. Johnny Evans is turned into Tyrell Malacia. He's just suddenly died. And Amad Diallo is out for the rest of the season. And Alto Bayendir as well. It's a shame we could use with him in goal right now, but he's also out with an injury. So we have sort of stumbled into an injury crisis once again, or a player availability crisis. The goals that we scored, very prominent from set pieces that we've engaged, not like necessarily straight. I mean, Maguire's goal when we're down to 10 men, um, you know, does come as courtesy for a good set piece. But I just think generally, just good set pieces, putting the ball into dangerous areas and just causing absolute chaos, I think is the best way about doing things like that. You know, if the ball's in the dangerous area, just everybody pile on, just dog pile onto it. Just kick, it doesn't matter if there's bodies between you and the goal. If you're in the box, smash it, absolutely smash it. What's the worst that's going to happen? Deflection could go in. Nobody gets a touch and it goes in. Goalkeeper unsighted gets a touch but still goes in. Comes off the post and bounces back into another part of the box or goes out wide. Maybe your corner taker is on that side and can pick it up again and recycle the chance. Maybe you know, there's deflections and ricochets that go to straight to a teammate's feet. So there's endless possibilities when you've got the ball in around the box. I think rather than trying to craft the most perfect, most beautiful, delectable chance, how about just smash that shit and get the ball in the back of the net by all means necessary. I think that tends to work out mighty fine. So I think that's what we saw for a lot of the most part on against Ipswich. 3 times set pieces were the root cause of our goals being scored. The own goal for the first time around, very close to being a Xerxes goal, but very well taken by Morsey. Must say, very, very well taken, and good stuff from him. Sign him up, 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 sign him up. But yeah, aside from that, the other two, well, it's all defenders that scored for us. All defenders. Delict with the equal the goal that put us in front. Harry Maguire, of course, in the second half and fairly early in the second half as well. Instant response out of the halftime team talk is a good way to pop yourself back into a momentous position. And then after that, it was just a sort of case of defending for your lives. Good discipline and shape. And we had the back five still in effect with Mazraoui coming on for Garnacho straight after the red card. And a lot of people said that Garnacho was a bit of a tosser for his misdemeanor on the side of the pitch and walking straight down the tunnel. Apparently, it's not quite what it was cooked up to be. What the media are saying or what other sources were saying it was, trying to say, oh yeah, no, he was being a right soppy prick, but ended up not really being the case. He just apparently it's not what the cameras made it out to be. So there's that Garnacho issue essentially put to bed before it really sort of gets too far out of control. Rasmus Højlund once again, of course, done absolutely nothing. Offered nothing up the top end of the pitch. Even Garnacho offered more, and he was the sacrificial lamb yesterday. Xerxes offered us more. Agate offered us plenty. I think Fernandes in open play, Fernandes was quite bad. I think his set pieces was a big pivotal part of our game, however. So that is the also not to forget that Lenioro also had themselves a very good game, and Diogo Dalot just had a Diogo Dalot performance. So yeah, it had its critically woeful downsides to the performance, but also had its upsides as well. In the sense that we are now 16 points away from relegation. Yay! Up onto 33, and ultimately, that is us. I think we can more or less put the talk of relegation to bed for now. But knowing us, we'll probably end up getting like swamped straight back in there again in very short notice. But what can you do? What can you do? Anyways, thankfully, it's not a Premier League game against Fulham. It's an FA Cup game. Thankfully or unthankfully, because Fulham, we have essentially beaten twice this season. I think the first time around was, of course, under Ten Hag. That was a 2-1 result there. And also another 2-1. No, it wasn't a 2-1. That was a 1-0, I think. Yeah, I think it was a 1-0. It was Lissandro Martinez at Craven Cottage with a bit of a wonder strike. Could have been 2-0 if not for a Amad Diallo offside goal, which again I was arguably offside, very very close. But I think this time around it's Old Trafford, FA Cup, and Fulham come to us with a good record. The only loss they've had in the past 5 in all competitions is Crystal Palace at home, which I believe was in the league. They lost that game 2-0, but since then they've beaten Wolverhampton Wanderers away from home, beaten Nottingham Forest at home, beat Wigan away, I believe that is FA Cup action, and then beat Newcastle away. So they've had a dosing of strong results in there, like some teams that a Fulham side should not really be expected to be beating or besting over 90 minutes. But then we can also say, on the contrary to that, they have losses where you'd expect them to win, but they do under deliver, and it sort of poses your question, but what sort of Fulham side are you going to get? If we have a similar Fulham side that what we had against us at Craven Cottage, no, not as much intensity, not really, creating a huge amount. I think there is a world in which we can again survive the game, but I'm not holding my breath for that because there's a mission statement. I'm sure Marco Silva will absolutely be throwing everything he's got into this game, and given that it's a cup competition, Fulham will be desperate to go as far as they can in this. You know, it's not impossible for a team to essentially end up, in the finals. I mean, look at Brighton. Um, the season that City won the final against us, Brighton semi-finalists, could have beaten us to go on to the final. The very next season, Coventry semi-finalists got to Wembley, and again could have absolutely embarrassed us and gone on to the final to play City. So it's all possible for teams like your Fulhams to end up in those positions in those games. So or in those stages of the competition. So I'm absolutely adamant that this Fulham side, you're not going to see the same lethargy that you had in the league fixtures. You're going to see a different energy, a different face from Fulham. They're not really missing anybody that significant. I mean, Emil Smith Rowe, I think, is a question mark. Harry Wilson, they will miss. Tete, they'll miss. No Reece Nelson and no Lukic. Outside of that, they have everybody else fit and available. Adama Traore. We can't have part 3 of this season to Adama Traore versus Lissandro Martinez, as Lissandro is injured. But I think at the same time, they'll probably be glad at that. They'll probably be thinking, right, okay, so big confidence booster, guys. Man United are in a crisis. Let's make this game count. And I think, we'll beat them. And absolutely, I think Fulham will be a side that will best us on Sunday. So, given that it's Old Trafford, we've got a serious issue with playing at Old Trafford this season. Um, for me, I think focus on just giving as much as you got in this game. Just fight to survive. Just show good discipline. Um, and if the case that we've got an honour in goal, just hope, just pray. Essentially, just pray. That's all you got is just prayers. That Ananda doesn't colossally fuck up another game, which you can't really buy. Even you can't even buy a prayer with this United team at the moment. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that we come into this game against Fulham very toothless, very very lethargic, no energy, and no real desire to sort of go on with digging deep to bring performances together either. I mean, we've had managerial comments sort of confirm that the players really would like us to go back to a very low block, very defensive and very counter-attacking setup. So, I mean, that just tells you all you need to know is that you hired a manager that plays a very distinctive system, but everybody else is just like, oh, we're not going to try until we get a manager that plays our way. Well, in that case, you might as well have gone and rehired Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, or better yet, hired Gareth Southgate. They're both low block counter attack managers. You might as well have gone and hired those guys. That's the reality of the situation. But that means we as a club, even with no ownership issues or no problems upstairs, we would still not really be progressing as a club to getting up the ladder to compete with the bigger teams and the better teams at that. So we need to. I think you could probably say that Ruben Amorim, if we were to describe it, is absolutely the right manager at the wrong time. Maybe we could coin that phrase with this manager. So I don't know. I think I do feel like not changing, you could say, is a stubbornness that will get the manager sacked, but I don't feel like it should be his place to be forced into changing, because the problem with that is once you've changed, you can't go back. That's it. Once you change, that's it. You are set for the rest of your tenure in charge, because if you try to go back to your old system, the players will really pull the plug and will try in their absolute highest might to get you the sack. They don't care. They will fuck you over and they will fast track that shit. They don't care. Remember, these players never care. They never ever care truly about the manager and their employment, because if they did, they'll be going through hell for leather to actually enact what the manager is instructing them to do. You know, the system, they're 3-4-2-1, they're 3-4-3. They will be doing everything in their might to bring around a performance. They would have done this under Eric Ten Hag, which they wouldn't do either. They wouldn't do that. And that's a formational issue. That was a formational issue. And that was Ten Hag giving them, the players, a leeway. So some leeway to the players, and it's like the manager gave them an inch, the players demanded a mile. And that is why the players are the biggest issue in terms of the football at this club. They are the biggest issue, right? The culture that they have been allowed to instill is absolutely cataclysmic. So that's where we are at with that situation. What do I think a scoreline will be? I'll probably go with a 2-1 to Fulham. in this game, to be honest. I don't see a world in which we win this game across 90 minutes. And even if it does go as far as extra time or more so into penalties, I don't see us winning even on the best day. I don't see this team really sort of delivering enough of a performance to really sort of have desired impact. So so yeah, that's where I'm at with that at the moment. Um, Let me know what you guys think about the game on Sunday. Do you think that this is the end of the FA Cup for Manchester United, or do you see United living to fight once more for another day in the next round of the FA Cup? And whether you think United were lucky to survive against Ipswich. Are we lucky? Are we fortunate to be 16 points clear of relegation rather than 10 points clear of relegation? So big 6-pointer that. Very big 6-pointer for United. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit a like and subscribe and all of that stuff. And we'll be seeing you definitely on Sunday. Definitely on Sunday. But maybe before that, maybe not so. We'll see what happens. Take care, people. Enjoy your Friday nights. And yeah, we'll catch you again on the flip side. Ciao for now.